Welcome to your weekly cosmic weather forecast. My name is Adeana. I'm an intuitive astrologer. In this week's forecast, we will be going over the energy and the astrology for March 2nd to the 8th, 2026. So, coming into the week, we're now in March. So, make sure you check out your March horoscopes, your March rising sign horoscopes. They are all on my channel now. Check them out. We're still in eclipse season. So, February's been intense, and March is still going to be somewhat intense coming into the month. The thing is that this entire year of 2026, there's so much significant change that we're done with one energy, but then we move into the next. So in April, we've got Uranus entering Gemini, which then is going to speed things up, especially too because we have the eclipses starting in Aquarius and Leo, which, yes, we still are in very much the eclipse and change and in the Virgo Pisces axis, but we're also transitioning into this Leo Aquarius axis of massive major beginnings, major endings, and Uranus being the co-ruler of Aquarius, that's really going to bring in really fast, quick, significant changes. And I think you will start to realize as the time goes, as we move through this year and into next year, that the changes are coming in quick. There's no buildup, there is no knocking at the door. Doors are just flying open and flying shut, which I think, one of the things I'm really trying to um kind of tell my clients and those around me is to just be open to change. Like, the more open you are to the change that is coming in, the more easier you're going to be able to kind of navigate the changes. If we fight against them or there's resistance, then it makes it just a lot more difficult, right? We have to be able to be the fixed signs are gonna be different, and I have a lot of fixed energy, but the fixed signs are the ones that are gonna struggle the most, right? Because fixed energy does not like change. We get stuck in our comfort zones, and we are all being just completely shaken out of our comfort zones. And so, okay, that was a little bit of a beginning of a rant. Anyways, so Monday on the 2nd, we're gonna have Mars enter Pisces, and so that's gonna change the dynamic, right? Like, Mars rules our anger, our aggression, conflict, and can bring in irritability, but also rules our motivation, willpower, and drive. And when it's in Pisces, which it doesn't do the greatest in Pisces, we're talking about a lot of passive aggressive energy. This very much is an energy where it's like your moods can be very up and down, right? Like, we have to think of Pisces as water. It's the boundless energy, right? And when we're talking about the drive to where we're taking action, that energy behind us that's pushing us to take action, it's it's all dictated by our emotions, really. And we can be reacting and responding based on emotions, based on how we're feeling in the moment. We could feel one way in the morning and another way at night. Like, this is an energy we're going to be in for over the next month. I think that Mars is in Pisces, I think, until April something. So it's just over a month with Mars and Pisces. So it's not like a 2-3 month period of this, but then Mars is going to go into Aries, and then that energy is going to really amp up because Mars is the ruler of Aries. This is where our motivation, willpower, and drive really picks up, and the action is really going to pick up. But that goes with all elements and aspects of our world. Like, yes, it's going to be great for our motivation, willpower, and drive, but then when we're also talking about war and conflict and violence, that's also going to amp up, right? So we also want to just keep that in mind. Now, also too, coming into the week on Monday, we've got the moon entering Virgo. So we're feeling the buildup to the lunar eclipse that we're having on the 3rd, on Tuesday. We have the lunar eclipse in Virgo at 12, almost 13 degrees. So I do have a separate forecast going into the lunar eclipse in Virgo that we're having. You can check that out. I go over the chart for the actual eclipse, and I also get into all 12 rising signs. But again, this is activating change that we've already been in, right? Like, when we're talking about the nodes and eclipses, when we have the nodes enter a certain sign or a certain axis of our chart, that area of life is going through major changes for the next 2 years. It's an 18-month cycle, but really like a 2-year cycle, because we always have that first eclipse 6 months prior too, the nodes officially shifting into, like, for example, we just had the solar eclipse in Aquarius on February 17th or 18th, whatever it was. But the nodes are not in Leo and Aquarius yet. They're not going to enter Leo and Aquarius until July. And so we would have had our first eclipse end of 2024 in the Virgo Pisces axis, initiating us into that cycle of change. And then the nodes made that initial shift into Virgo and Pisces January of 2025. And so whatever really started the end of 2024 for you and whatever that change has brought up, which, if you want to know how that energy is affecting you, I made a video on my old YouTube channel, which I have added to a playlist on my new YouTube channel. And it's the lunar nodes in Virgo and Pisces. Check that video out. I go into all 12 rising signs and I go into what the nodes are, what they bring, and the changes and all of that. So make sure you check that out. I will be posting a separate video talking about the nodes entering Leo and Aquarius later on. We don't have the nodes entering Leo and Aquarius until July. So I will be posting a video soon going over that energy so that you guys can get an idea of how that's going to be showing up for all of you before we have that transit. But, the lunar eclipse that we're having in Virgo, this is just bringing in more change, right? That we've already been in. Whatever story is playing out in a certain area of our life. So, for example, I'm Virgo rising. So we've got the South Node in Virgo, the North Node in Pisces. So a lot of what I've been navigating since the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, is around relationships and one-on-one connections, where not just was the North Node there, but we also had Saturn in Pisces. And I noticed I got to just kind of actually tell a little personal story here, which I usually don't do much. And I was going to upload a separate video going over how personal transits have shown up in my life, because when you really track this stuff, it's then hard to not believe in it when you see how accurate it really is over the years. And having Saturn enter my seventh house of relationships, where I had Pisces, where I had Neptune for 14 years, really brought the veil down, or lifted the veil, I guess, on certain people in my life. And how, sometimes Neptune can have us seeing people for things or experiences for how we want to see them, not necessarily for, who they are or what they are. And yeah, Saturn really did that. And then having the eclipses there, every time we enter an eclipse season, there's more to the story coming in. There's more change. There's something else going on that has to do with that story. So, I'm dealing with stuff with an ex and digital stalking. And I also have a podcast about this, Adeana's Diary, if you want to check that out. I have it linked here on my page. And I also usually link it in the description below. But this podcast talks all about toxic relationships, power and control dynamics, domestic violence, abuse, and psychological warfare and digital stalking, which is something I'm still very much dealing with. Last year, I had my ex completely sabotage my business, which is why I had to start a brand new YouTube channel. And now, he's in my stuff again. And so and I should have known something else was going to happen because we're in eclipse season. And yeah, literally just last week, it was, he had gone into my new network and all my new devices. And so I should have known that it was an eclipse season and something else was going to be showing up with that. But this is something that I've been dealing with for over a year. And actually, it was just exactly a year ago. Actually, I don't even really want to say year. I've only known about it for a year, but I guarantee it's been going on for much longer, because there's a lot that was very unknown about this person, as Neptune was, making things very blurry. Saturn literally exposed everything. It's truly amazing sometimes how accurate astrology could be. But so I only found this out last year, the beginning of last year. He had cloned my phone, or hacked into my other computer, da 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 da. And so hacked into all my emails, and then got into my YouTube channel, locked me out. So my YouTube channel's still there, I just can't get in. And then of course accused me of doing all this stuff to him, which is like, and that's something that's actually kind of interesting. So he, not interesting, but just insane, because it seems what I've noticed is he will reach out to me and accuse me of doing something like a week or so, or sometimes even days before he does something to me. And so weeks ago, he had texted me saying, "Oh, I know it's you and I have proof." And I'm just like, "What are you talking about?" And I usually don't engage. I just, whatever. And then, but I did text him. I said, "I can only imagine what you're up to," because I knew something was coming. And then sure enough, this happened. But the interesting thing is that my podcast just launched on February 17th. And on the 21st at 10:30 a.m., all my devices were thrown offline. My Home Hub 3000, which is my router, thrown offline, turned into an iPad with 12 IP addresses. And now there's something else posing as my router. And so, and the thing, and the interesting thing is too, is that it's not just me now that knows. Like I've had the Bell technicians come, and I've had others, come that have tested things. And yeah, like we very much can tell there's devices in the house and there's things going on. It's just a matter of finding them. And the whole thing is that you can't. I don't know if you'd ever be able to prove like exactly where it's coming, because that's why they have the multiple IP addresses. But I don't think I have to do anything, because being an astrologer, and I know how accurate astrology is, as all of this was in my seventh, it's happening in his 12th house of things, people, places that are hidden. And so now that energy's in his first. And so I don't think I have to do much of anything, but karma is going to be delivered. You cannot put energy out and not expect it to come back at you. So I'm in a space now where I can't allow it to consume me, and I just live life, and whatever happens happens. And the one thing he'll never be able to control is my emotions and how I react and how I respond. And so that's just how I'm kind of navigating this now. But I just wanted to throw that little story in so you guys get an idea sometimes of how these energies can manifest. But with this eclipse, whatever has shown up, 6 months ago, 6 months before that, that's going to give you an idea of what's showing up now. There's more to the story showing up at this time with the lunar eclipse in Virgo. And then once we get to Wednesday on March 4th, we've got Venus forming a sextile to Uranus. And so Venus will be at 27 degrees of Pisces. Uranus will be at 27 degrees of Taurus. And so this can bring in some really sudden opportunity around your finances, around relationships, around some support. Um, you want to know where you have Pisces and Taurus in your chart. Also, check out the monthly horoscopes, because I go over all this energy for the month. But this is where, yeah, there can just be something sudden coming in around, possible support, opportunity, maybe different ways to make money, maybe financial opportunities of some kind. And then on Thursday, the 5th, we will have the sun forming a trine to Jupiter. So the sun is still going to be in Pisces. And also, to keep in mind, while we're going through all this, we are also in the middle of a Mercury retrograde. Mercury did station retrograde last week. So, what were you navigating for the last few weeks? Because that's going to give you an idea of what you could be revisiting at the time of the Mercury retrograde. It was actually the day of the Mercury retrograde, the day Mercury stationed, where a whole bunch of stuff came to light with the stuff I'm dealing with. And I thought, okay, well, now I know I'm going to be in this energy and dealing with this for 3 weeks while Mercury is retrograde. And so, what was showing up around the 26th, 25th of February, and also since February 11th when Mercury entered pre shadow, that's going to give you an idea too as to what you're going to be revisiting and sitting with and reevaluating over the next few weeks. But on Thursday, when we have the sun forming a trine to Jupiter, this Jupiter is still going to be retrograde at this point. Next week, we will have Jupiter station direct on the 10th, where we can have some really beautiful support coming in. Or I feel like this could even be more emotional and spiritual, energetic and intuitive, because it's in Pisces. But, the sun is our life force energy and vitality in Pisces. But Jupiter's retrograde, which then brings that energy internal. So this is almost to where maybe something is just clicking. There's like a shift, but it's a positive shift. It's a trine. So I do love this. Pay attention on Thursday, what's showing up in your world, even around your inner world. How are you feeling? What is shifting internally, emotionally, intuitively, spiritually, energetically? I think we will feel this sun trine to Jupiter on more of that level. And then on the 6th, on Friday, we have Venus entering Aries. And Venus does not like to be in Aries, right? This is a Mars ruled sign. So Venus ruling our relationships and our needs, our wants, our desires, our money, our finances, and our self love, self worth, values. Being in Aries, this can become quite an impulsive energy, especially too because right after Venus is going to form a conjunction to Neptune and Saturn. So on the 6th, Venus enters Aries. On the 7th, Venus is going to conjunct Neptune. And then on the 8th, Venus is going to connect to Saturn. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we've got this Venus energy. And remember, Venus in Aries can be impulsive, impatient, very direct, very irrational at times, not always, but can be. With the conjunction to Neptune, there could be something that's confusing, something you're not seeing clearly, something you're not quite understanding. And then with the conjunction to Saturn, this could be like a block or a hole to something, like a solid no. Or it could be something committed starting, because it all depends on our personal relationship with Saturn, but it could show up one of two ways. Either it is a door slammed in your face and Saturn's saying, no, not right now, or there's like a solid, committed, foundational relationship, or whatever the case is, way of making money, like however it's showing up for us, but it's very long lasting. It's very committed. It's very dedicated. It's very, because it's that Saturnian energy. So, yeah, we want to pay attention the 6th, the 7th to 8th, especially around the Venusian themes and topics and what Venus is bringing up for us. And also, where do you have Aries in your chart? Aries also rules the self. This could be very much self motivated, self shifting our identity in some way, right? There could be some sort of identity or um, something around. I even feel too intuitively like something shifting as to how you want to approach something, if that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. That's odd. Okay. And then also on the 7th, when we have the Venus conjunction to Neptune, we're also going to have the Mercury cazimi. And so on Saturday, on the 7th, yes, there could be something we're not quite seeing clearly with the Venus conjunction to Neptune, but this is also a day to pay attention to our intuitive downloads, important conversations, information we're receiving, what is showing up in your world. Venus cazimis bring aha moments and epiphanies. So we want to journal this day. We want to pay attention to what's going on. This is a Mercury cazimi in Pisces. This could be something in your dreams, premonitions, all types of things, right? So we want to be tapped into the energies and just journaling, jotting down anything that sticks out to us, any conversations that stick out to us, any, self-talk that you're having, any important messages that are kind of any powerful thought forms, like there could be something around that um, that ends up being some insight into something. Hopefully, I'm explaining this properly. I've really been noticing with the Mercury energy in Pisces that I'm having a hard time like conveying like the words, like what I'm trying to say. It's like I can't get it out of my mouth. Oh, it's frustrating at times. All right. Well, I hope this helps you navigate the energy for the week ahead. Thank you so much for joining me. We are almost entering a brand new zodiacal year once we get to the 20th of March. I can't believe we're already into March. It's so crazy. Time is just flying. But I hope you all have a happy total lunar eclipse in Virgo. And make sure you check out the monthly horoscopes for your rising sign. And also follow me on TikTok because I post videos on there and I'm going to start going live. And I'm probably also going to start going live on YouTube once or twice a week. All right. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will connect with you in the next one.